Hey Adrian, how's it going? Yeah, so another mostly positive week for you here. I think like what you're talking about here in terms of the undershoots, just some mature decisions from you there. So I think that's good and that's super positive. With respect to this shoulder irritation thing, you're probably right. I think it's likely that it's dips. Obviously, no idea really. It could be a lot of things, but given this is new, and dips are also new, you know, unlikely to be a coincidence. Um, what you could do next week is just do them unweighted or significantly lighter. But if you want to give them a miss, give them a miss. It's not a big deal. And we can certainly rotate them out next block, and add some maybe just some higher rep benching or something. Yeah, I'll have a think about it. Um, cool. And then yeah, still some problems with the RDLs. With respect to this stuff, I would do think of it as like always doing stretchy type stuff first. So if you're doing any like foam rolling or like lacrosse ball stuff, that is the first thing you should do, and then do some stretching, and then do like more active things. I don't mind having planks relatively early, like the Copenhagen plank specifically to get your addictors switched on and doing something that can actually be quite good to do before you do other drills. Interestingly, or at least like yeah before some drills. So feel free to sprinkle those on in quite early, but definitely do stretches very early, like after any soft tissue work that you want to do. All right, let's have a look. Yeah, so this looks nice. Hip staying kind of on the pad here. So again, this shakiness is completely fine, as long as you're doing your best to maintain like good balance on your feet and good pressure. Yeah, very nice. Oh yeah, super good. Yeah, this can be the problem with dips, right? Is you can kind of see yourself. You're super extended here, um, and if your lower ribs are pushed really forwards, that definitely also impacts what's happening. It's like the more extended you are in your lower back, the more rounded over you're going to be in your upper back, um, which then can push your shoulders forwards and result in this kind of impingy um, action at your shoulder here, which sort of like puts pressure on your bicep tendon and some of the other like muscle insertions there as well. So I think certainly at the very least, when we come back to doing dips, really think about being very strict with your brace, and don't let that dipping belt pull you too much into extension, as much as you can. Oh yeah, I can see how restricted these are. But I think yeah, just do as you're doing with these. If we're finding that there's a massive restriction in ability to hinge, just kind of make a mental note of this. Um, do less, right? Do less volume, and as you did yourself, replace some of that volume with um, a form of hinging that you can manage, i.e., doing some Copenhagen's. So this is like try to get some bodybuilding stimulus, some like hypertrophy stimulus from the RDLs, and then just kind of stop, right? Cut a set here and there, cut a few reps here and there if you feel like the quality goes down. Um, then add maybe another set on hamstring curls, or if there's a lying versus the seated hamstring curl, do like add in the other one for a couple of sets to replace that volume, and then also replacing the sort of the functional pattern of the hinge. Do some hinging that you can do either with a Copenhagen, single leg RDL, like with very little weight, right? Just to try to get some mobility back. All right, let's see how we're doing with this. So this looks kind of good. I think do your best here to be unsupported, like try to graduate, maybe do the first couple of reps supported and then try to let go of the wall. This is super tough, right? But there's a lot of stuff happening through your foot and all those small muscles there, and like all the way up the chain here. And actually, a lot of the benefit is in getting some of these smaller muscles to be able to switch on and control what's happening. You'll probably be way worse unsupported. I think I can't remember if I mentioned this to you. It's one of the things I'm doing for my rehab for my foot where I ripped off the ligaments. You'll be really bad unsupported at first, and it'll feel really hard. And you'll feel kind of really unstable. Try to stick with it. You can. My point is do some reps supported, because there is some benefit to just going through the range of motion, as I'm sure you can kind of feel. Also be aware, right, try not to let your toe hang off the edge. I don't know how much of that is actually hanging off. Just switch the step around to be the other direction, if that makes sense. So that you have more capacity to get your whole foot on. Yeah, these look kind of okay apart from that. So this is much better. I think what I would do here as well is like put my left arm on the outside of my left leg and kind of like push my left leg in. That's then doing a bit of that hip capsule stretch. You can also play around. If you remember, there's a Connor Harris stretch where kind of like in this kind of setup, I think it's in one of his videos that you already have, but you put your here, so the banded knee goes down. It's basically adding a band to one of Conor Harris's hip capsule stretches. I'll maybe just send it to you to keep this more simple, but that can be really, really good as well. So you're pulling the femur back in the socket, giving you that space. So you want to have the band pulling exactly where you are here, so not entirely back behind you and not entirely up to the side. So it kind of like pulls the hip, the joint out of the socket. Sorry, the head out of the socket. This is better. You also can then play with like lunging the knee forwards, right, as you do this. But so you need to be actually super careful here, Adrian. So if let me just draw this. So approximately, let's say, okay, this is a neutral pelvis, right? And then you would have femurs coming out like this, right? Kind of makes sense? Where you are is you're kind of like this. Or actually probably more accurately, you kind of like this. If that makes sense, right? So if you just have your knee going out to the side, you're going to be doing, not that, you'll be doing something like that, if that makes sense, right? So that is not going to be the most useful position for you. Does that make sense? So you want to try to move yourself towards this shape. So that means you need to do a lot of work so if we take this position, kind of evolve it to being, so we have our, hips like here, and then we want to try and almost do this, right? Which will then make this happen a little bit. But a lot of what's happening here is this space gets opened up, right? So that gives, the band is pulling back this way, which allows then space for this stuff to happen. Does that make sense? That's kind of what we should be trying to achieve here. Hopefully that made sense. So yeah, some stuff with your leg off to the side, most of it with it not off to the side. These are always fantastic. Try to make sure that when you're doing this, you you are extending your hips. So there's like this straight line between head, hip, and knee. So you're not bending at the hip too much, which looks like there's a little bit of a bend here. So you might need to squeeze your butt just a little bit to get your hips to come through. Otherwise, these look really good. This is better, but we're still getting the hamstring. You can't hide your straight leg raise by wearing trackies. So you can try this again. Try to, yeah, this is better. That's more realistic. You're doing a better job with this leg, I think. But this is actually not a terrible result. That's good. That's an honest result right there. I'm poking fun at you. These are like genuinely really, really hard to do yourself without someone kind of like calling these details out to you. It's like these little shifts and compensations that allow you to get that bit of extra range of motion. They exist as part of your normal like day-to-day movement strategy, so you can't feel them. And asking you to suddenly be aware of them is really, really hard. Yeah, so you see that, right? You see this leg moving. So it's definitely, this is definitely a bit of a cheat. But don't don't worry about it too much. I think just if you, these are really useful for you to do as well, to track whether a certain drill or intervention improves things. So I think there is value in learning how to do them correctly. And then filming and watching is a nice part of that as well. And just doing it really, really slowly and trying to pay attention to all the bits of sensation and movement. Cool. All right, Jen. Well, yeah, I think, again, lots of big wins this block. I think, bench has surprised us. I think it will surprise me that it's actually moved so well in the top end load, where we've not been pushing it and we've reduced the frequency. So you've done fantastically well. And good to hear as well that you're feeling more jacked. Obviously, that's the big goal here. But anyway, yeah, really good stuff, and I will see you next week.